Have you ever felt manipulated without realizing it? Have you ever spent time with someone and walked away feeling drained, exhausted, or confused, without knowing why? Bad people do not always reveal themselves immediately. They do not always yell at you, steal from you, or openly betray you. Some of them are charming, intelligent, and highly skilled at hiding their true nature. You may be working with them, you may be friends with them, or worse, you may even be in a relationship with one. But here's the truth, their patterns are predictable. Their behaviors follow a set of signs. And if you can recognize these 12 warning signs, you can protect yourself before it's too late. Today, we are going to expose the hidden tactics of toxic people, using insights from psychology and Stoic philosophy. Most importantly, you will learn how to identify them and shield yourself from their influence. Because knowledge is power, and in a world full of manipulation, the ability to recognize deception can save you from emotional and psychological damage. So, let me ask you, how do you identify a person who is harmful to you? Why do they behave this way? And most importantly, how do you break free from their influence without getting caught in their web? If you have ever struggled with a manipulative boss, a deceitful friend, or a toxic family member, stay with me, because this video might change the way you see the people around you forever. Let's begin. Now that we understand how dangerous toxic people can be, the next question is, how do we spot them before they cause damage? The truth is, they rarely reveal themselves immediately. Many of them appear kind, generous, even supportive, at least at first. But over time, patterns emerge. Their words and actions stop aligning. They create chaos, drain your energy, and leave you questioning yourself. To protect yourself, you need to recognize these patterns before they take control of your life. Let's break down 12 clear warning signs of a toxic person, so you'll never be caught off guard again. There is a kind of person who never raises their voice. They don't threaten, they don't force, and they don't openly command. But somehow, they always get what they want. They are the master manipulators. They use emotions as their weapon. Guilt, obligation, fear, and even kindness, they twist these emotions until you find yourself doing things you never agreed to. Think about this. Have you ever had a colleague who constantly complains about how stressed they are, how much they have to do, and how no one helps them? At first, you feel bad. You want to be kind, so you offer to help. But then, it happens again. And again. Until suddenly, their workload becomes your burden. Or perhaps you have a family member who always makes you feel like you owe them something. After everything I've done for you, they say, making you feel selfish for setting boundaries. This is manipulation at its finest. And the worst part? You don't even realize it's happening until it's too late. So how do you protect yourself? The first step is recognition. If someone constantly makes you feel guilty, obligated, or afraid of disappointing them, ask yourself, are you really making choices, or are they making them for you? The second step is setting boundaries. Manipulators hate clear limits. They thrive in emotional gray areas. The moment you clearly say, no, I won't take on your work, or I am not responsible for your emotions, they lose power. And finally, understand this, manipulators do not change unless they lose control over you. The only way to break free is to stop feeding them with your guilt, your fear, and your energy. So, let me ask you, have you ever been caught in the web of a manipulator? How did you handle it? Share your experience in the comments. Let's learn from each other and take back control of our lives. There is a type of person who never takes responsibility. No matter what they do, no matter how obvious their mistake is, they always have an excuse. You call them out on their behavior, and suddenly, it's not their fault. They were too busy, too stressed, or misunderstood. Somehow, the blame shifts. Suddenly, you are the problem for even bringing it up. We all know someone like this. Maybe it's a friend who constantly lets you down but always finds a way to justify it. Or a coworker who makes mistake after mistake, yet somehow convinces the boss that it's everyone else's fault. Or maybe, it's a family member who hurts people but never apologizes because, in their mind, they are never wrong. This is not a coincidence. It is a pattern. Psychology tells us that people who never apologize often suffer from deep insecurity. Admitting fault threatens their ego, so instead of owning their mistakes, they rewrite reality. So how do you deal with them? The first rule: do not argue. You will never win against someone who refuses to accept reality. Instead of trying to make them see their fault, accept that they will never change, and act accordingly. The second rule: focus on actions, not words. If someone repeatedly refuses to take responsibility, stop expecting them to do so. Adjust your behavior. If a friend always breaks promises, stop relying on them. If a colleague always blames others, make sure you document everything to protect yourself. And the most important rule: don't let them shift the blame onto you. These people will manipulate your emotions, making you feel guilty for even pointing out their mistakes. Don't fall for it. At the end of the day, a person who never apologizes is telling you something very clear: they are not willing to grow, change, or respect the impact of their actions. So ask yourself, do you have someone in your life like this? And more importantly, why are you still giving them chances? Let me know in the comments if you've ever dealt with a person like this, and what you did about it. Have you ever opened up to someone, expecting understanding, only to be met with cold indifference? You tell them you're going through a tough time, and instead of support, they dismiss you: everyone has problems, stop being so dramatic. You share an accomplishment, hoping for encouragement, and instead, they mock you: oh, must be nice to have such an easy life. These are the people who lack empathy, the ones who cannot, or will not, understand the emotions of others. Sometimes, they are simply unaware of how their words or actions affect people. Other times, it's more than that: they see vulnerability as a weakness and prefer to ignore or belittle emotions rather than acknowledge them. Perhaps it's a family member who never acknowledges your pain, no matter how much you try to explain. Or a boss who treats employees like tools, not human beings. Or maybe, it's a friend who is only there when things are easy, but disappears when you truly need them. So, how do you deal with someone like this? First, stop expecting empathy from them. If someone has shown you time and time again that they do not care, believe them. Second, redirect your energy to those who do care. You don't have to convince someone to respect your emotions. True friends, real connections, and genuine people do that naturally. And finally, set boundaries. If their lack of empathy is harming you, you have every right to protect yourself from their influence. Because at the end of the day, you deserve to be surrounded by people who see you, hear you, and respect you. So tell me, have you ever dealt with someone like this? And how did you handle it? Share your experience in the comments. Some people don't seek peace. They don't want balance. Instead, they feed on conflict. They are the chaos creators, people who seem to stir up trouble wherever they go. Think about that one neighbor who always complains, files unnecessary reports, or spreads rumors just to cause problems. Or the coworker who enjoys pitting people against each other, whispering just enough to create tension but never getting their hands dirty. Maybe it's even a family member who always finds a way to turn simple disagreements into full-blown wars. To them, conflict is a game, and they love to watch people fight. They create drama, tension, and division, and then they step back, pretending to be innocent, pretending to be the victim, or worse, enjoying the chaos they caused. So how do you deal with them? First rule: don't engage. When you see someone trying to bait you into an argument, don't take the bait. The moment you react emotionally, they have already won. Second rule: protect your peace. These people want to drag you into their storm, but you don't have to go. The best way to frustrate them is to remain calm, detached, and unshaken. Final rule: set clear boundaries. If someone constantly creates conflict in your life, you have every right to distance yourself. Some people thrive in negativity, but that doesn't mean you have to. At the end of the day, the best revenge against a chaos creator is this: living a peaceful life that they cannot touch. So tell me, have you ever encountered someone like this? How did you handle it? Share your experience in the comments. Lies. We all tell them sometimes. A little white lie to spare someone's feelings, an exaggeration to make a story more interesting, harmless, right? But some people don't lie occasionally. They lie as a way of life. They lie to cover up mistakes, to gain power, or simply because they can. Imagine this: you work with someone who never takes responsibility. One day, they make a huge mistake. But instead of owning up to it, they fabricate an entire story to shift the blame onto someone else. Now, the real problem isn't the mistake, it's that their web of lies makes it impossible to find the truth. Or think about that one person who exaggerates everything, always making themselves the victim or the hero. Their stories never quite add up, but by the time you notice, you're already tangled in their deception. Some liars lie so convincingly that they believe their own falsehoods. Others lie just enough to twist reality in their favor. Either way, the result is the same: mistrust, confusion, and chaos. So how do you protect yourself? First, never take their words at face value. Always verify the facts. If something doesn't feel right, trust your instincts. Second, don't get caught in their game. Liars often provoke emotional reactions. They want you to argue, to defend yourself, to fight their illusion. But the more energy you waste on them, the deeper you fall into their trap. Finally, create distance. If someone consistently distorts reality, you can never truly rely on them. And trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild. At the end of the day, a person who lies without remorse is telling you one thing: they do not respect the truth. And if they don't respect the truth, they will never respect you. So, tell me, have you ever encountered someone like this? What was their worst lie? Share your experience in the comments. You make a small suggestion, and suddenly, they explode. You express a different opinion, and within seconds, it turns into an argument. You point out a small mistake, and they act like you just betrayed them. These are the people who overreact to everything. Every disagreement is a personal attack. Every criticism is an unforgivable insult. Every inconvenience is a catastrophe. Maybe you've had a friend like this, someone who flies into a rage the moment they hear something they don't like. Or a coworker who turns small workplace conflicts into dramatic battles. Or even a family member who reacts with extreme anger or sadness to the most insignificant things. At first, you might think, maybe I should be more careful with my words. But over time, you realize, it doesn't matter what I say, this person will always find a reason to explode. So how do you deal with them? First, don't try to fix them. These people are trapped in their own emotional chaos, and no amount of reasoning will change that. Second, stay calm. Their goal is to pull you into their emotional storm, don't let them. The more control you maintain over your own reactions, the more powerless they become. Third, create boundaries. If someone is constantly overreacting and draining your energy, you don't have to stay in their orbit. Distance is a powerful tool. At the end of the day, their emotions are their responsibility, not yours. You are not here to walk on eggshells for someone who refuses to control themselves. So, tell me, have you ever dealt with someone like this? How did you handle their constant overreactions? Share your experience in the comments. You start telling a story about something that happened to you, and suddenly, the conversation shifts. Now, it's about them. You share an achievement, and instead of celebrating with you, they try to one-up your success. You mention a struggle, and rather than listening, they hijack the conversation to talk about how their problems are worse. These are the people who believe that everything revolves around them. Their interests, their opinions, their emotions, all that matters is their world. At first, you might think they're just passionate. But over time, you notice something disturbing: they never truly listen. Conversations with them feel one-sided, exhausting, and unfulfilling. Maybe it's a friend who only calls when they need to vent, but never asks how you're doing. Or a coworker who turns every discussion into a monologue about their own experiences. Or even a family member who makes every situation about themselves, no matter what's happening in your life. So how do you handle them? First, don't let them dominate the conversation. If someone constantly shifts the focus back to themselves, redirect the discussion, or end it altogether. Second, set boundaries. You are not just a supporting character in their life. If they don't respect your experiences, stop investing energy in them. Third, test their ability to care. The next time they start another self-absorbed monologue, pause and ask yourself, does this person ever ask about me? Do they even know what's happening in my life? If the answer is no, it's time to reevaluate the relationship. Because relationships, whether friendships, work connections, or family ties, should be built on mutual respect, not one-sided admiration. So tell me, have you ever dealt with someone who makes everything about themselves? How did you handle it? Share your experience in the comments. There's a certain type of person who only appears when they need something. They don't check in on you. They don't ask how you're doing. But the moment they need a favor, suddenly, they remember your name. At first, you might not notice. You tell yourself, maybe they're just busy. But over time, a pattern emerges. They only reach out when they need help, money, connections, or emotional support, but when you need them, they're nowhere to be found. Maybe it's a friend who disappears for months, then suddenly calls when they need a place to stay. A coworker who pretends to be friendly, but only when they need you to cover for them. Or a relative who never supports you but always expects you to be there when they need a favor. This is not friendship. It's exploitation. So how do you handle them? First, recognize the signs. If someone's interest in you only appears when they need something, trust your intuition. Second, set boundaries. You are not an ATM. Not a free therapist. Not a tool for their convenience. The next time they call only when they need something, say no, watch how fast they disappear. Finally, stop investing in one-sided relationships. Real friendships, real connections, and real love are based on mutual support, not transactional benefits. Because at the end of the day, you deserve people who value you for who you are, not just for what you can offer. So tell me, have you ever dealt with someone like this? How did you handle it? Share your experience in the comments. You say no, but they act like they didn't hear it. You set a limit, but they push and push until you give in. You express discomfort, but they dismiss it, telling you that you're too sensitive or overreacting. These are the people who do not respect boundaries. They believe that what they want is more important than what you need. Maybe it's a friend who always pressures you to do things you don't want to do. A coworker who dumps work on you, assuming you'll just accept it. A family member who feels entitled to control your choices, your time, and even your emotions. At first, it might seem harmless. You think, maybe I should compromise. But soon, you realize, compromise is never enough for them, they always take more. So how do you handle them? First, say no, without explaining. People who don't respect boundaries will try to argue, manipulate, or guilt-trip you into changing your answer. The less you explain, the less power they have. Second, be consistent. If you give in once, they will test you again and again. Stand firm, even if it makes them uncomfortable. Third, recognize this: respect is not something you have to beg for. If someone refuses to respect your boundaries, it's not your job to keep explaining, it's your job to walk away. At the end of the day, you teach people how to treat you. The more you allow, the more they take. So, tell me, have you ever dealt with someone like this? How did you enforce your boundaries? Share your experience in the comments. Something goes wrong at work, and suddenly, it's your fault. A project fails, but instead of taking responsibility, they blame the team, the boss, or even bad luck, never themselves. You point out their mistake, and they say, "I wouldn't have made that mistake if you had helped me more. It wasn't me, it was them." These are the blame shifters, people who refuse to take responsibility for their actions. Instead, they manipulate others into carrying their burdens, absorbing their failures, and even cleaning up their mess. Maybe it's a coworker who always finds a scapegoat for their own mistakes. A friend who constantly plays the victim, never acknowledging their role in their own problems. Or a family member who expects others to fix everything for them but never admits they were wrong. At first, you might feel guilty. You think, maybe I really should have done more. But over time, you realize, no matter what happens, they will always shift the blame onto someone else. So how do you deal with them? First, don't accept their guilt traps. If someone constantly avoids responsibility, it is not your job to carry their weight. Second, hold them accountable. The next time they try to blame you, calmly respond, "No, this was your responsibility." Watch how uncomfortable they become. Third, protect your integrity. Don't let their manipulations make you doubt yourself. If someone refuses to own up to their mistakes, that's their burden to carry, not yours. At the end of the day, people who never take responsibility will never change, because in their mind, they're never wrong. So, tell me, have you ever dealt with someone like this? How did you handle their blame shifting? Share your experience in the comments. Some people never let go. They don't move on. They don't forgive. And they don't forget. Instead, they wait. They plot. And when the moment is right, they strike back. These are the people who hold grudges and seek revenge. Maybe it's an ex-friend who never forgives a small argument and years later, tries to ruin your reputation. A coworker who remembers every slight, real or imagined, and waits for the perfect moment to sabotage you. Or a family member who secretly resents you for something in the past and keeps finding ways to get even. At first, you might think, they wouldn't actually do anything, right? But then, out of nowhere, something happens. A rumor starts about you. A secret you trusted them with is suddenly exposed. An opportunity is taken away. These people live with a heart full of resentment. They are not interested in justice or fairness, they are driven by pure vengeance. So how do you protect yourself? First, recognize the warning signs. If someone holds on to every grudge, never lets go of past conflicts, or keeps talking about getting back at others, they will do the same to you. Second, don't play their game. Revenge-driven people feed off drama. The more you react, the more power they have over you. The best way to win. Walk away before they make you their target. Third, never give them ammunition. The less personal information they have about you, the less damage they can do. Be careful what you share and who you trust. At the end of the day, vengeful people destroy themselves more than anyone else. But you don't have to be caught in the fire. So, tell me, have you ever encountered someone like this? How did you escape their cycle of revenge? Share your experience in the comments. So now, you know the 12 warning signs of a toxic person. You've seen how they manipulate, deceive, and drain the energy of those around them. You've learned how they shift blame, hold grudges, and control others through fear, guilt, and constant negativity. But here's the real question, what will you do with this knowledge? Because awareness is only the first step. The real challenge is how you respond. Maybe you're already dealing with someone like this, a coworker who always avoids responsibility, a friend who only calls when they need something, or a family member who keeps dragging you into their endless drama. And maybe, up until now, you've felt trapped, unsure of how to escape their influence. But remember this, you have a choice. You do not have to entertain manipulation. You do not have to tolerate disrespect. You do not have to sacrifice your peace for someone who thrives on chaos. So now, I ask you, have you ever dealt with a toxic person? How did you recognize the signs? What was the moment that made you realize you had to walk away? And most importantly, what advice would you give to someone who is still stuck in that situation? Let me know in the comments. Your story might be the wake-up call someone else desperately needs. And if you found this video helpful, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because we're not just exposing the dark side of human nature, we're learning how to rise above it. Thank you for watching, and remember, your energy is sacred. Protect it. So now, you know the 12 warning signs of a toxic person. You've seen how they manipulate, deceive, and drain the energy of those around them. You've learned how they shift blame, hold grudges, and control others through fear, guilt, and constant negativity. But here's the real question, what will you do with this knowledge? Because awareness is only the first step. The real challenge is how you respond. Maybe you're already dealing with someone like this, a coworker who always avoids responsibility, a friend who only calls when they need something, or a family member who keeps dragging you into their endless drama. And maybe, up until now, you've felt trapped, unsure of how to escape their influence. But remember this, you have a choice. You do not have to entertain manipulation. You do not have to tolerate disrespect. You do not have to sacrifice your peace for someone who thrives on chaos. So now, I ask you, have you ever dealt with a toxic person? How did you recognize the signs? What was the moment that made you realize you had to walk away? And most importantly, what advice would you give to someone who is still stuck in that situation? Let me know in the comments. Your story might be the wake-up call someone else desperately needs. And if you found this video helpful, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because we're not just exposing the dark side of human nature, we're learning how to rise above it. Thank you for watching, and remember, your energy is sacred. Protect it.